but if I'm committing war crimes, why on earth would I make a TikTok of myself?
Because they deemed themselves untouchable, and because the state of Israel in 48 was born through this same terrorism. We know that the Nakba in 48 resulted in at least 821 villages and cities being destroyed. At least 15, we don't even know how many, 15 to 25,000 people being massacred, literally massacred. At least 750,000 of our brothers and sisters being displaced, and many women and children were raped, and nothing happened. I mean, they came into existence and they flourished. Then after 67, they did a lot of the same and nothing happened. And then in 2012, 2014, 2018, 2021, they hit Gaza again, nothing happened. So they know that the world has been complicit through their silence.
What's the pushback been like? We've seen people, dismissed from their jobs. I don't even have to go into the details.
I've been reprimanded by the Bar Council already, professionally.
You've been what?
And I was reprimanded by the Dutch Bar Council already. And I have like a clean slate for the past 21 years. It's the first time ever. And it wasn't because of a client, it was because of this.
So say what you will about the Israeli army, they certainly aren't shy about publicizing and owning their war crimes. Whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, you will find video after video, reel after reel of Israeli soldiers filming themselves looting Palestinian homes, sometimes disturbingly wearing the clothes and underwear of Palestinian women that they've looted from those homes. We've seen them setting houses, schools, hospitals, mosques on fire, destroying them with explosives and laughing. And this is from their own social media accounts. They've even posted pictures and videos of themselves torturing captured Palestinians and giving the peace sign and big smile on their face. And in doing so, inadvertently, perhaps, they have also left a digital evidence trail that could potentially lead to their prosecution, which is, I suppose, fitting when you consider that this is the first live-streamed genocide in human history. But the question is, who's going to bell that particular cat? So enter the March 30th movement, which along with the Hind Rajab Foundation, you all know who she is, are dedicated to, among other things, prosecuting Israeli soldiers accused of war crimes. And joining us right now is the man who's helping to make that happen, Dutch lawyer Haroon Raza. Haroon Saab, thank you so much for joining us. Could you walk us through the work that's been done so far and what exactly is the process here?
Yes, certainly. Thanks very much for having me. Well, firstly, I'm one of the founder members of the March 30th movement and the Hind Rajab Foundation, and I'm their legal counsel. And I'm representing them in the Netherlands, but I'm also coordinating the worldwide legal effort in holding IDF soldiers and other operatives responsible, inshallah. So what we are doing is, generally, we have an investigative team which scours the internet and other sources and goes into, for example, Instagram, TikTok, etc., looks at the accounts of these Israeli criminals individually, but also collectively. They also have some collective sites. And what they usually do there is they very openly, as you quite rightly said, share everything. So they share their personal Instagram posts, going on holiday, etc. And then if they're on duty in Gaza, they then subsequently share their war crimes. And they range from, let's say, torturing civilians to destroying mosques, hospitals, houses, etc. And it's quite easy because they leave a digital footprint for us. All we need to do is gather all the digital evidence, verify that it is actually from a certain account. We identify them, and after that, it's just a very simple procedure of naming them, explaining what we can see in the videographic and the photographic evidence, and then sending that to the ICC. And we've been doing that individually since December of last year. And alhamdulillah, just a few, I think 2 months ago, we lodged a 1,000 IDF soldier complaint indictment at the ICC level. which we've sent to 10 countries via the embassies in The Hague.
Now, you said you're sending these to the ICC. But like when we talk about the ICC, I mean, international law in general, a lot of people seem to believe that, well, it really doesn't matter. Law is a tool, international law in particular, in the hands of the powerful. And we have seen the attitude of the most powerful countries in the world. I mean, I'm just going to, as we know, the ICC recently issued arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli Defense Minister.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah, finally, right? After all that time. And what do we see? We see the United Kingdom and Germany being deliberately vague. We see the US literally, using blood-curdling language against the ICC. We saw France initially say, hey, yeah, we're going to abide by it. And then they go with this like weird loophole that, well, Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Convention. Well, neither was Ukraine, Russia last year, remember, neither was Sudan with Omar al-Bashir. Right. So what can we really, genuinely, realistically expect from the ICC?
Well, we have a multi-tier approach, if you will. So we're not just lodging a complaint at the ICC level. At the same time, we're providing all the evidence which we sent to the ICC, which is about, I think, the 8,000 pieces of videographic and photographic evidence. We've also sent a copy to all the embassies, which I just mentioned. So we're talking about countries like Pakistan, Turkey, South Africa, Ireland, Spain, and many others. I won't mention them all because we are still building some pressure on these countries to do something. And what you do expect is, if it's not today, it'll be within 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or whenever. But that some of these countries take their responsibility seriously, their obligations towards international law dictate. And that even if the ICC doesn't move on all of these 1,000 IDF soldiers or some of them, these countries will take their responsibility seriously and issue national arrest warrants. If they do that at any time, they can also put them on Interpol and have them arrested wherever they travel. And that will have an effect on Israeli war crimes and the ease at which they are committing these war crimes. Now, everything has to do with politics, of course. I mean, law is one thing and politics is another and power is something else. But at the end of the day, a country like Turkey will very publicly toe to a certain line and speak about Israeli war crimes. At the same time, they export a mass amount of oil to Israel, to which the IDF is literally fueled. And there are a few thousand Turkish IDF soldiers, by the way, which many people don't know, but they are.
Is that right?
Yes, most certainly. So they'll have to, at some point in time, if it's not now, it'll be within half a year or 1 year, they'll have to become serious because the people of Turkey will wake up and smell the coffee. It goes to show you're not really serious about your obligations and about your rhetoric towards the Ummah, because that's what we're talking about. And the same goes for other countries. However, what we're hoping for is that one of these countries, if one of these countries takes it seriously and even puts 10%, 100 IDF soldiers on their national arrest warrant list and then share that list with Interpol and ask Interpol to issue red notices, you'll see very quickly that Israel and Israeli soldiers will start looking over their shoulder. We've already achieved this. About 4 weeks ago, we found a notorious IDF criminal on holiday, as they normally are, in Cyprus. Our assets on the ground alerted us about that person's presence in Cyprus. We contacted one of our lawyers in Cyprus who directly called the police, and the police were very seriously thinking of arresting this individual. That person escaped Cyprus via the help of the Israeli embassy, alhamdulillah. So we are getting there. And slowly but surely, we will hunt these people legally down, and we will bring them to justice. And if it's not in The Hague, at the ICC, it'll be somewhere else, but they will face a day in court. Just like Simon Wiesenthal very famously had his Wiesenthal Center and went after Nazis, we're going after Zionists who murder civilians.
As much legal merit as we see now, right? So is that a possibility? Like, for example, there's a Belgian soldier, let's say a French soldier, German soldier, and he's out there, posting his TikToks, his genocide TikToks, and then he's back in Germany, let's just say, for the sake of argument. Can local laws be used against him?
Yes, they can, because normally in the European Union, certainly in the Netherlands, because I can speak to the Netherlands as a advocate for the past 21 years, and I'm specialized in criminal and international law. Yes, any Dutch national who commits any crime, any felony, anywhere in the world can be prosecuted in the Netherlands, let alone war crimes, because we have special laws regarding war crimes. And that generally is the same in the rest of continental Europe. So the same applies to French nationals and German nationals and Belgian nationals. In fact, we've already just lodged a case against a Belgian Israeli dual national who is and was a member of a notorious sniper squadron who shot children. So very slowly and surely we're getting there, and legally it's possible. To come back to your previous point, because I forgot to mention that, you talked about France and other European countries and their obligations according to the Rome Statute and the ICC, and their U-turns which they're making regarding, let's say, jurisdiction. When the ICC issued, rightly or wrongly, I'm not commenting on that, an arrest warrant against Putin, and I believe it was the head of the Child Services Division in Russia regarding Ukraine. When the ICC issued those two warrants, France was one of the first countries who said, we're going to get them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were talking about head of state. 2 weeks ago, France started speaking about the immunity for heads of state. Now, there's no difference whatsoever between Putin and Netanyahu regarding their position as head of state. The second thing is, and people tend to forget that, it's not about war crimes which were committed in Israel. And we can discuss 48 borders and 67 borders, etc. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the very clear-cut situation of Gaza and the West Bank as occupied territories. It's not Israel. Nobody accepts it as Israel. Even the US doesn't accept it as Israel. So when you look at that and the fact that the ICC and the ICJ have both given decisions even before this year, long before this year, legally, regarding the fact that those territories are not Israel, and the ICC accepted jurisdiction over Palestine, over Gaza and the West Bank. There is no jurisdictional problem whatsoever. This is going on TV, so I have to watch my language. It's rubbish. It's legal and literal rubbish. There's no legal argument, really. Even a first-year law student could explain that in baby words. I mean, in nursery words, nursery terms. So it's rubbish. There's no legal reason whatsoever not to effectuate the arrest warrants. And there's in fact still a legal obligation on all the countries, on all the signatories of the Rome Statute, including France and the Netherlands and Germany and all the other countries all put together to do something. If they do not do that, they can be taken to court at the national level. And we will do that.
It's mostly political. We know that.
Without
right?
a doubt.
I mean, if this was anyone else, I mean, my God, all hell would have quite literally broken loose. Right?
Certainly.
That's established. So, given that we know it's politics, so this is an uphill struggle, right, Haroon? I mean,
but alhamdulillah, look, we're all tested, and the people in Gaza and the West Bank are being tested to the limit by Allah Ta'ala. And they are still standing firm. So who are we to get tired after doing nothing? I mean, we've just started. We formed the March 30th movement in November last year, and the Hind Rajab Foundation was about half a year ago, which was created through the umbrella of the March 30th movement. We're just getting warmed up, alhamdulillah. So these are. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is the first round, and we have 12 rounds to fight. And right now we're just sparring, if I can use boxing terms, we're just sparring and testing the opponent's defenses. And very soon we'll be giving uppercuts and hooks. Don't worry, it's going to happen, inshallah.
Right cross. What's the pushback been like? We've seen people, dismissed from their jobs. I don't even have to go into the details.
I've been reprimanded by the Bar Council already, professionally.
You've been what?
And I was reprimanded by the Dutch Bar Council already.
Nice.
And I have like a clean slate for the past 21 years. It's the first time ever. And it wasn't because of a client, it was because of this. But alhamdulillah, we spoke about Allah testing us. This is nothing. We are just being tested with a little bit of, it's not even money, but a little bit, yeah, sure. It's nothing. It's something professional, alhamdulillah. We learn from the mistakes we made and we come back stronger. And one thing which does happen, we get threats. We expect some pushback, especially because these are IDF soldiers, and this has something to do with the Mossad at the end of the day. And in the Dutch government, recently there was a report by the Ministry of Diaspora regarding Palestinian organizations, but also regarding our organization, the March 30th movement, and I was named specifically by the Ministry of Diaspora as committing lawfare. Now, if they mean that we're putting pressure on them via the courts, alhamdulillah, I'm more than proud to be on that list. But that list also means, because that list was leaked, that the rest of Israel and other allies of Israel are also, they know about this list, they know about our position. And again, they could do what they've done in the past. So we expect some blowback. We've had some blowback. We get death threats, etc. But that's nothing new if you're fighting a good fight. So, bring them on.
Fair enough, man. I mean, speaking of the Dutch government, I mean, we all saw what happened in Amsterdam. I mean,
exactly. And even regarding that, I can tell you that we lodged a complaint at the Dutch Public Prosecutor's Office regarding the Maccabi hooligans and terrorists, because that's what they were.
Yeah.
And we were astounded looking at the acts and the events as they were unfolding here in this country, because we had a false media narrative with so-called professional Dutch media. Then we had a parliamentary debate in which we Muslims, it was like we were public. It's been like that for some time in the Netherlands, by the way.
Yeah,
but this was extreme, like we had integrated and we had to be set straight, etc. And then within 1 or 2 days, a so-called journalist of about 14 years old had video evidence proving. And what happened subsequently? And there was another Dutch lady, a freelance journalist, who had video which she had shared, which German media and Dutch media then said, look, these are Muslims and Moroccans running after Maccabi supporters. But it was the other way around. It was Maccabi hooligans running after innocent Dutch people, white people as well, and beating them mercilessly. And the mayor of Amsterdam, who was a left-wing person, coming out and speaking of pogroms, so like in the Second World War, whilst the situation was the other way around. So what we've done is we've litigated. So we've already lodged a complaint. I've lodged various complaints in the name of the Hind Rajab Foundation and the March 30th movement. I've also lodged a complaint in the name of two other very important organizations. An organization, Muslim Rights Watch in the Netherlands, and another organization against Islamophobia in the Netherlands, which are big, large organizations. And we are very seriously pursuing those avenues. At the same time, this is a Zionist country. And I would dare to say, perhaps after Germany, this is literally the most Zionist country in the world. Maybe after the US, but in Europe, without a doubt, because what happens is the blowback here. Even if you look at what happened to me with my reprimand at the Bar Disciplinary Committee, I made the mistake of publishing a complaint which I made against a settler, a colonist, a Dutch colonist, a criminal complaint, by the way, which will, inshallah, and mark my words, I will be successful in that without any doubt whatsoever, inshallah. But what happened was, because I put his name somewhere, whilst this guy is a very well-known so-called journalist and Zionist, extremely well-known, he then complained. Normally that would have resulted in a warning, Raza, don't do it anymore. But it resulted in a reprimand, which is slightly higher. And I'm very sure. At
least 2 steps above a warning. Yeah.
Exactly. And I represent lawyers as well in criminal court and at the bar disciplinary level. So I know how it works. I'm very sure that this has had to do with the Israeli Zionist backdrop. So we are aware of this. We are aware of this within the government, problem within the institutions. But again, that doesn't mean we sit down and say, look, we can't do anything. No, alhamdulillah, we have a challenge. We are Muslims, alhamdulillah. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us are within the movement. And we have an obligation towards our brothers and sisters who are being murdered. I think just 3 or 4 hours ago, they killed another 40 civilians, including babies and children. Yeah. So when we look at that, it gives us great pain, of course. We cry tears, but it also gives us a lot of fire and strength to then continue on the path which we've taken. And again, I'm not expecting something to happen within 1 week. We're realistic. This is something which might take months and years. But we are more than willing to wait and to work during all that time in a consistent fashion to make sure that eventually, one day, all those who committed crimes will be held accountable, inshallah.
the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
Eventually, always, inshallah,
that's
always.
what we would like to believe. There's something that always I constantly wonder about, and I've asked this like to a lot of people whenever we're discussing this issue. What kind of people? Why? If I'm committing war crimes, I mean, hopefully it'll never come to that. But if I'm committing war crimes, why on earth would I make a TikTok of myself?
Because they deem themselves untouchable, and because the state of Israel in 48 was born through this same terrorism. We know that the Nakba in 48 resulted in at least 821 villages and cities being destroyed.
Yeah.
At least 15, we don't even know how many, 15 to 25,000 people being massacred, literally massacred. At least 750,000 of our brothers and sisters being displaced. And many women and children were raped, and nothing happened. I mean, they came into existence and they flourished. Then after 67, they did a lot of the same and nothing happened. And then in 2000, let me see if I can count properly, 2012, 2014, 2018, 2021, they hit Gaza again, nothing happened. So they know that the world has been complicit through their silence. And they believe because of their economic situation, but especially because of their lobby and all the people they have, including in this country. There are two very strong lobby groups in this country that they can't be touched. And that's the reason they think nothing's going to happen. But they forgot about one thing. They forgot about the fact that this generation, not my generation, because I'm a little older than this young generation, but Gen Z, these young people, much better than I did, I remember, although I've been an activist since I was about 17 or 18, but even then, are more than prepared to give up a lot to achieve justice. And it's something which drives them. So I think they miscalculated that, and they miscalculated something else. Muslims, alhamdulillah, in Europe, now we are not our parents or our grandparents. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term. I mean,
I get it.
They were surviving. Alhamdulillah, we are flourishing now. You know, economically, politically, we are there. In Holland, it's not like in the UK where a lot of people are flourishing. Hey, you still have an underclass, but even then, we're getting there, inshallah. And we know that we not only have duties, but we have rights as well. I mean, when I'm paying 5 times normal tax, if you look at a Dutch person, I have at least the same rights as a Dutch person. So looking at that, it goes without saying that we are much more conscious of our rights and conscious of the difference we can make. And we've seen it before. We've seen it in situations where, for example, during the struggle for African American freedom, Black freedom in the 60s and 70s, that once people started getting educated about their rights, they started standing up. And we're not going to sit down again. So, no, again, this is the difference. There's a different time. And everything that they've been doing before had been protected. But I think for the first time ever, especially because of social media, the world has changed. People because they're so silly that they upload, as you said, they're uploading everything themselves. So they're giving us the evidence, and we are seeing the evidence with their audacity in sharing it. And they forget that there's a global audience, and that global audience is seeing for the first time exactly what Israeli terrorism is, and Zionist terrorism is, and has always been. And we're waking up to the fact that the existence of that state from 48, I'm principled as far as that's concerned, from 48 up to after that 67, etc., has been a crime against humanity, one of the greatest crimes against humanity of the past 2 centuries. So that's what's changed. And again, the audacity is now being rewarded by the fact that people are standing up.
There you go. Standing up, and you ain't going to sit down again.
Inshallah. No way.
That was a great line. Haroon Raza, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I look forward to having the opportunity to talk to you again.
Inshallah. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Sound good.